Common motives for traffic stops, what to do if stopped, and your rights, Part 2. During a traffic stop, your rights. When you are aware of your rights and understand what is expected of you during a traffic stop, the experience is often less tense and goes more smoothly. Let's clear up some frequent misunderstandings about your rights during a traffic stop as well as some minor differences in the legislation of the various states. You have the right to silence. Not just while you're being arrested does the right to keep silent apply. Anyone who interacts with a police officer has the right to remain silent at all times. Remember that if asked during routine traffic stops, you must always present your license, registration, and proof of insurance. Although you do not need to speak while giving this documentation, you should inquire with the police officer if you need to go elsewhere for these materials or open the glove compartment. During a traffic stop, drivers may be required by law in some jurisdictions to respond to queries about their identity. By reading up the topic in your driver's manual, you can determine whether this applies in your state. Regardless of whether you are legally compelled to give the officer your name, address, or any other identifying information, it is best to do so and to cooperate as fully as you can. Refusing to communicate will make the police officers work harder, which will make them less likely to be forgiving of you. Drivers should be aware that lying when identifying oneself or refusing to identify oneself when being brought under arrest are both offenses. Your right to be informed of the purpose of the stop. Police must have a good reason before stopping a member of the public. This is referred to as probable cause, and it could be a broken tail light, speeding, or any other comparable reason, which justifies looking into you or your car. Police officers are required by law to inform you of this reason, and you have a right to know it. If they have not made the purpose of the stop obvious, do not be hesitant to inquire. Your right to record or photograph. Any interaction you have with police enforcement personnel, including regular traffic stops, may be filmed or recorded without any issues. Body cameras are frequently used by police enforcement organizations to record encounters with the public. However, you have every right to record your exchange with the officer if you believe they are not acting properly, and you may need the audio or video proof in the future. Every state is subject to this regulation. Your option to object to a search. Only 3 conditions must be met for a law enforcement officer to search your car. They must be able to see something illegal in plain view. They must have solid evidence that a crime has been committed. Most traffic infractions are misdemeanors or infractions, not crimes, or you must give your consent. Otherwise, a warrant is required in order to conduct the search without your consent. The best course of action if an officer insists on searching your car without your permission is to acquiesce to the search and then file a complaint with the appropriate authorities. If the officer feels they have probable cause in this situation, they may force you to consent to the search. Can you say no to getting out of the car? When ordered to exit your car during a traffic stop, you must do so even though you have the right to question the officer's justification. Before requesting you to exit your car, police must have a reasonable suspicion that you are up to no good. They might ask you to exit the vehicle if they think you are carrying a weapon or are intoxicated. Always obey in these situations because refusing to exit the car could appear suspicious and get you into greater problems. Is it legal to decline a breathalyzer test? You have already given implied agreement to testing your blood alcohol content by signing your driver's license. By signing their driver's licenses, drivers are essentially agreeing to any upcoming breathalyzer testing. Implied consent can apply to blood tests or breathalyzer tests depending on the state. In other states, it only applies to breathalyzer testing. In the latter case, you are free to request a blood test rather than a roadside breathalyzer. But doing so would be useless, because it would just make things more difficult for you. Submitting a complaint or a grievance. If you think you were handled unfairly during a traffic stop, you have the right to complain to the appropriate authorities. On the ticket the officer gave you, you may typically find the contact information and other facts required to file a complaint. Check the DMV website to see if the Regional Transportation Authority can assist you instead. If motorists believe the officer's conduct during the stop was exemplary, they may also use this channel to offer a compliment. Law enforcement organizations use complaints and praises to train officers, monitor inappropriate behavior, and reward appropriate behavior. How to respond to your traffic ticket. It is not required to act immediately after receiving a citation for a traffic infraction. You should receive a letter from the courts outlining how to respond to the ticket within a few weeks. Your options are: acknowledge that you broke the law and accept the penalty, most often a fine or points against your license. Request a court hearing to contest the summons and enter a not guilty plea. You will be forced to submit your evidence in court if you decide to enter a not guilty plea. Additionally, the police officer who wrote the citation will be asked to provide testimony. The consequences of eluding a police officer. It is a criminal offense to try to elude a police officer. When a police officer signals that they want to pull you over, you should never refuse to stop or try to elude them by driving faster. Even though you haven't yet deliberately broken the law or committed a crime, if you keep going, you will. Although they vary from coast to coast in the United States, the penalties for eluding a police officer are severe. Let's use California as an illustration. Offense: ignoring a police officer's request to stop your car. Prison time of up to a year in a county jail is the penalty. Offense: intentionally running away from a police officer while causing serious bodily harm to anyone. Penalty: up to 1 year in county jail or 3, 5, or 7 years in a state prison. A fine of at least $2,000 but not more than $10,000, or both a fine and imprisonment. Offense: killing somebody while attempting to elude the police is a crime. Penalty: state prison time of 4, 6, or 10 years. In your state, similar fines and sanctions will probably be imposed. Make sure you read through the portion in your driver's manual designated for this information. Above all, keep in mind that avoiding or defying a police officer only worsens the situation for everyone concerned.